When you've got a phased scheme and you're selling numerous units, most developers will know that you don't make your money until you sell your final 20%. The first amount is going to go to your senior lender. From an accounting perspective, you sort of need to know what the profitability of each project is, so that as you sell one property, what actually is the margin that is associated with that project? What is the costs associated with that particular property? This one's a bit techie. We do a lot of projects where it's multi-unit, multi-phased, multi-development mix in terms of houses, flats. And I wanted to talk about something that we're going through at the moment. Obviously, we're starting to sell units in our St Andrew's Court scheme in Thame. This is from an old example, and all these figures won't be finalized, but it gives you a good sense of what I'm trying to achieve here. So when you've got a phased scheme and you're selling numerous units, most developers will know that you don't make your money until you sell your final 20%. The first amount is going to go to your senior lender. You'll then got some mezzanine finance or some other investment coming in that you'll then pay off. And then your profit is effectively in that final 20%. So how do you calculate actually what each plot profit was? And when you do sell units individually and you're still going through that process where you're still got work in progress, interest kind of racking up, from an accounting perspective, you sort of need to know what the profitability of each project is, so that as you sell one property, what actually is the margin that is associated with that project, or reverse that, what is the costs associated with that particular property? Because if you've got a whole 10 unit scheme of £1 million, it might be that you just split that by 10 and you've got 100 grand per plot. But in our case, it's never as easy as that, because we've got houses, we've got flats, we've got different sized flats, where the attributable costs associated with different flats is going to be different. I.e., this, for example, flat 3, flat 4, flat 5, flat 6, they're all different sizes. Flat 3 and flat 4 are 14% of the total square footage. Flat 5 is 17% of the total square footage. And flat 6 is 22% of the total square footage. So when I'm looking at costs, I need to apportion the costs in that percentage of total area. And that's typically what we'll do. So just to talk through this site, because it's got a good balance of different types of things, we've split our costs into 3 elements. We had a pair of new builds, which is these ones on the right hand side. Some of you came to our site visit to this site a couple of summers ago, and we finished it back in 2023. 2 new build houses in the car park, office conversion into 4 flats, and then some landscaping and external works.
If you're getting value from this video, please subscribe down below, but do us one bigger favor and share it with just one person you think will get value from this. Thank you very much. Back to the video.
We know the costs because we've got the contract value for the new houses. That's in this column. We've got the office conversion, and we know the costs associated with that work, because again, that formed part of a different JCT contract. And then you've also got the wider site costs that are associated with purchasing the property. All of the finance costs are held for all of the site, not necessarily held for just the houses or just the offices. You've probably got planning applications that are relating to the whole site, not just specific to the houses. All of that stuff goes into these 3 columns. So you've got everything relatable to the office conversion, everything relatable to the new houses, and then everything that is more site and joint cost compared to both of the 2 different types of schemes. So once you've got those 3 buckets, effectively, we then split down the sizes of each unit compared to the total square footage, because that is really the only way that you can apportion percentage of costs against a total. Every cost is in this top section, a breakdown and a split of how each of those elements gets passed down to the plot is in this table. And then at the moment, we're working out the costs towards building one of these new houses. So as you can see on this, we've taken the individual construction costs associated with the houses, which was 460 grand. So 230,000 pounds of that 460 is apportioned to one of the houses. And then as part of the site and joint costs, there's a total joint cost of 1.229 million pounds. And then we've broken that down into the 15% of that floor area compared against the total is taken from that site joint cost. So 50% of the individual JCT contract goes towards the actual build costs. And then ultimately there is the best part of £170,000 that we can apportion from the site-wide costs to that individual plot, taking our total cost for that plot up to £405,000. So that's how we work it out. It's definitely something that you should get your accountant to be working on with you. We've massively improved the way that we calculate this, and our new accountant has helped us make it way more intelligent because it has to be on some of our sites. So St Andrew's Court, there's commercial that we've kept, there's flats that we've already completed, there's phase 2, which we'll talk about later, there's site-wide costs that are associated with that, there's communal areas that aren't necessarily associated with all of the flats. There's different blocks, there's different communal areas, so it is way more complicated on some other sites. So we've been able to kind of streamline things. But as the sort of overarching thing that you need to take away from this is looking at your costs for the individual elements of the project, associating and apportioning a percentage of those costs to each unit depending on the size of that unit, and then you can calculate the total cost that that individual plot cost you within the scheme.
If you got value from this video, make sure you click the subscribe button down below and ring the notification bell, because we release one video at least every week, so you'll be the first to get notified. See you on the next one.